Hello and welcome to the Huss and Glow show and the podcast. And I am already amped up because I just don't know what to say. I don't know what to say to other creators. I'm just kind of still figuring out what could be said about the BAFTAs. Now, obviously, anytime this word is being used, it is going to have really strong, harmful side effects. It's almost something that you just can't reverse. So this knowing that, let me just say some things in general. I think BAFTA did a really, really bad job in their own PR. Saying that, sorry if you were offended, is not the way to go when people that are affected are going to have to carry this. In particularly, my heart goes out to those that were affected and were experiencing this and yet had to be and maintain all of that professionalism. Let's just go over a couple of things that are being said. So there's been a critique on the apology, in particular, Hannah Beechler, who is, I believe she was the she's the production designer for Sinners, and she was affected by this word while she walked. And it was a throwaway comment and a throwaway moment. Alan Cumming is actually the person that has the Tourette's and had actually verbalized this racial assault on her. And I say that because I don't think that a lot of people understand that these stick with you, especially in a time when you are completely in a place where you don't think this is going to happen to you. So this is, for me, it's like the emotional equivalent of a car crash. You didn't see it coming. And this is something that's going to be with her for quite a while. So Beechler revealed on X the racial slurs were directed at her and others, stating, quote unquote, the situation is almost impossible, but it happened 3 times that night. And one of the 3 times was directed at myself on the way to the dinner after the show. Hello, that had to be horrific. She's sitting with it. And it's so toxic. I can't even tell you. But I won't get into my feelings about this because it's actually not my story to tell. Isolation and dehumanization. Beecher wrote that while she understands the nature of Tourette's syndrome, the case of the outburst from the guest, which was oh gosh, what was it? I'm just so floored. Alan Cummings. Um, oh, that's the host. That's not the person that did. Hello. I think I'm so um taken aback by this. So pardon for me from naming Alan Cumming as a person that said this. It's not. It's actually the person that tried to put a spin on it. And it was a written statement that he had said in saying, like, let's just not take it too seriously. It's the nature of Tourette's. It's like, no. A lot of people are not going to agree with that. So and also too, it was just really sad because there were people there too, and I was thinking in particular about Kate Hawley, who was a growing up friend of my husband, who was the costume designer that won the 2026 BAFTA in costume design. Like little things like that. It just puts a bad taste. And a couple of things I wanted to talk about in particular that I think is worth mentioning. From a digital PR perspective, BAFTA did not win the accountability award that night. And it was an institutional response that failed. And it was the difference between a genuine apology and a corporate deflection. And I cannot stand that kind of response, in particular when it comes to racism or anything like that. And in 2026, we got to have a just no tolerance attitude. This was such a fail that was just absolutely beyond. And also to the whole offended, if you were offended sort of language, that is something that is never acceptable. It's just like saying, and I'll give you just again, kind of putting my 2 cents in it. And I wanted to just talk about this from a marketing perspective. However, one of the things that kept on like repeating in my head when I was talking about this, it was like somebody hits somebody else in the back of the head and it not only hurt their head, but their neck, and maybe even had to seek medical attention for it because it was so bad, and maybe even some concussion came out of that too. And then the offender, the person that actually hit them, would say, "Oh, that's so stupid. That didn't even hurt. I know how hard I hit you." That's the equivalent of what happened. That is exactly how BAFTA treated this, by the way. Yeah, so that was really bad. And then there's another piece because, complexity in all of this. And we're getting performative advocacy on TikTok where a certain color of people are now acting like there's these allyship. However, it's just great content for them, and they're going to go ahead and put their two pieces, which I'm trying to avoid myself. And I'm trying to do it now because I just need to be quiet and amplify the voices that are affected. The ones that are verbally injured should only have that voice. So creators should actually show up by amplifying those affected voices. Don't center yourself. For God's sake, don't center yourself. But instead, you may want to repost, reshare something that resonates with you. Please share the voices that are affected. That's what advocacy looks like. Try to leave your opinion out of it. And I would even say try to keep your image out of it, because some people do this thing where they're listening to somebody and they're reposting it, and then you see them making themselves as an overlay to this video, and they're just arms crossed and shaking their head or pointing like this. We don't need to see you. We don't. And if you want to show real advocacy, it's about not centering yourself in this moment. To be honest, racism is harmful. Full stop. We just have to stop tolerating in 2026. What BAFTA should have done is that teaches us about this crisis in real time, what this meant. And the sad thing is they were able to go ahead and selectively edit some comments about Palestine, and that was okay. Like, they were switched on for that, and they had about a 2-hour mark where they could actually edit out or change things, and they chose not to. And so what I'm saying here is that what they should do now from this point, next day, of course, clearly they need a diversity team. They need to have diversity PR and say, hey, can you help us handle this? We really mishandled it. How can we show up in a place where our community is more important than, our corporate jargon? Like, what can we do? And one of the things is to not so much walk it back, but just own it. This is what gets me. A lot of corporates or a lot of people that are entangled in this harmful rhetoric will not own up to it. And all they have to say is like, listen, we have heard you in the last 24 hours. We are working at it from our executive perspective. There's a lot for us to learn. We absolutely apologize in the way that we've done this. We are taking steps to reevaluate our process. We thank you for giving us your feedback, and we look forward to addressing something that's this harmful in a more tasteful and productive manner. Like, super simple. It doesn't have to be a lot of fluff. Like, keep it real, keep it tight, keep it, poignant and particular. And I just want to say one other thing. I just hope that you don't allow your thoughts or yourself to consider that this was not a big deal. It's not for us to understand if it is a big deal or it's not. Rather than listen to the voices that are affected, they will guide us in what is harmful. There'll be a huge diversity of responses, which I've seen. And from the people that are affected, and lots of different takes, and just listen. It's not our place to add on to a thought, but rather this is the teaching moment for us as creators, as people that are just, listening. This is the time where we should stay silent and listen. Depending on the bandwidth of that person, because this is the other thing that I think is always missed, is that we ask questions, and we ask questions in a time and space where it's just not appropriate. It could be very heavy. Racism challenges the idea of you existing. Racism challenges the idea of your family existing. Racism also shames the fact that you are existing and may think that you're, in essence, also your family, should even exist, that you're not palatable. And during a crisis or acts of racism, guess what? You're not palatable. Like, enough. Let them speak, amplify their voices, let that happen. And just to give you kind of like one of the things that I kept on resonating with after the Bad Bunny Super Bowl performance is that, when they were mentioning those countries, they were in North America, all the way to South America, and they were naming countries that were within that space and area. It was cheering on the families that came from that area. And if you can my bad take on crossing over. If you can cross over for, anybody that is of African descent, is to have all these voices say, actually, it's not that deep. Don't take it that way. It's so flipping harmful. This is the moment where we all show up and say, they're absolutely right. I'm just going to push repost. I'm just going to share it in my community. This is very harmful. I'm trying to do what I can do to amplify their voice. And my opinion is out of it. Of course we have opinions, right? This isn't the time. We need to amplify those voices. And so that's it. That's my whole take. I look forward to you listening to your thoughts. Just in general, I like doing digital PR stuff. I mean, it's kind of how I started in the digital marketing space. So I think I'm going to do a bit more of this, like how to handle that digital PR stuff as it pertains to social media, because it really is necessary for us to get all caught up, especially if we do a blunder, especially if we're a company that forgets how to be human. And sometimes those happens because guess what? Part of being human is making mistakes. How can we correct it quickly so that we can capture a community rather than totally, disenfranchise them? So there you go. That's this week's episode. I look forward to seeing you guys in the next one. If you're building something real, but the rooms you're in feel small, transactional, or outdated, listen up. Hustle and Glow Network is women-led networking designed for strategy, visibility, and actual growth. We meet in Ponsonby at the Long Room. You support the venue, we support each other. No awkward pitches, no performance energy. We talk digital authority, AI, capacity, leadership, business that feels aligned. If you're leading at a high level, but feel like your conversation has moved faster than the room you're in, you're not behind. You're just ready for a better room. The link is in my bio. Join us.